God's Word and turn to Psalm 100 real quick. I'm going to share a few thoughts with you, and then we're going to turn this over to our team that went. And I think we have a video for you this morning, some pictures, and some other really good stuff. First of all, let me say thank you to all of you who helped make our mission conference possible. We've got some wonderful servants here that helped prepare the food and all the stuff, the music, everything that happened. We're just so thankful for you. And thankful for our team, which we'll talk about more in a moment, that went to our North Carolina trip. Psalm 100's 5 simple verses. I'm going to read them to you this morning. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into His presence with singing. Know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. Enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise, and give thanks to Him and bless His name. For the Lord is good, and His steadfast love endures forever, and His faithfulness to all generations. Father, thank you for your word this morning. May it be the meditation of our heart and the thoughts of our mind as we go through this week. As you allow the good and sometimes the challenging to come into our life, help us to know that there are lessons in this psalm and in your word which teach us who you are and how you want us to respond as your people. So may we think about this through the week and especially throughout this day, and we give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen. This psalm teaches us 5 quick lessons that I want to share. First of all, it teaches us that we should be a joyful people in worship. Can I share something with you this morning? We should be the most joyful people no matter what happens. You know, when Zach sings for us, you should be smiling at him. When that first, I got an amen from him. It is so much better to see people's faces just radiant with joy from the Lord. And you know, they always say that the muscles in your face when you smile, when you grin, when you sing, it's so much more pleasant. But our hearts should be joyful, even sometimes when we are maybe sad. Paul says the remedy for sadness and bitterness and everything else in life, you ready for this, is to be thankful. Whenever you're down in the dumps, listen to me, find something to be thankful for. And start simple. God, everything happened, but I can still see. God, everything happened, but I can still hear. God, everything happened, I can still walk. I want to tell you something, folks. We met some people this week that couldn't walk, couldn't hear, and couldn't see. It'll change your life. You need to be around them. I always tell people, you want to be thankful? Go to a nursing home. Spend an hour a week there. I challenge you. You will walk out and you will be a blessed person. We should be joyful. Lesson number 2, we should serve God with gladness. God puts opportunities in front of us every day. On our way down, people had flat tires on the way. The guys that I was with, the administration team that went down, everybody they saw that had a problem, they stopped. One night it was rainy and cold. And as we stopped there was a man in a Jeep, and most of the time we would just pass people by like that. The guy ended up being a war veteran and had a family member in his car who was disabled and couldn't walk, and they had no spare tire. We had to go get plugs. We were about 2.5 hours late for dinner. We wallowed on the ground in the rain. It was nasty and cold, but all these guys jumped in there and we helped fix their Jeep. And this guy's like, I don't know why you all came by and how in the world y'all are 2.5 or 3 hours from here and end up helping us. I don't know. He said, but I sure am glad you did. People just drive right on by. A third lesson we should learn is we should acknowledge God's providence. It says here that He is the Lord and we are His people and the sheep of His pasture. The sheep of His pasture. If you want to talk to Matt Palma, who is one of our farmers here who has sheep, one of the things that a shepherd does is he provides for his sheep. He finds places for them to go. no matter where we are in life, God provides for His people. And we can just see that all around us. And I hope that you're aware of everything God does in your life. Let me tell you something, folks. If you had a dry place to sleep last night, if you had food to eat, that is a blessing. If you had a car to drive, let me tell you something. You are super and abundantly blessed. And if you have money in your pocket right now and you're going to go home to your dry home, you have more than a lot of people in some places of the world. God provides for us richly. Now, we don't have our Lamborghini, our bass boat, and our lake house, but I'm going to tell you something. All those things really mean nothing. Nothing. God provides for His people. Fourth, we should be thankful people. Number 4, verse 4, enter His gates with thanksgiving. This is like coming into God's house, His temple. Enter God's place with thanksgiving and into His courts with praise. This is our heart. And then the last lesson, we must recognize God's goodness is everlasting. Notice this, the Lord is good, His steadfast love endures forever, and His faithfulness to all generations. We haven't even seen a portion of God's provision, but throughout all generations, God will provide. We have a short video, and then we're going to let all of our guys come up here and share. I think they have something they want to share with you. So, Christian, since you're going to be one of our mouthpieces.
Oh, yeah.
Roy. I'll give you the Roy story here in a while.
Awesome. Hey, so he said we've got a short video. Hey, there I am. He said we've got a short video. Well, that's not necessarily true. We've got like 70 short videos. And the reason you're like, whoa, we want to get out of here by noon, Christian. So yes, all these videos are like 10 seconds long. And we will be talking as we're watching them and explaining what you're looking at. But I thought it would be a good idea that we share as much as possible with what happened, what we saw, what we were able to do and help with, and show you all. I didn't want to just take a couple pictures and try to paint a picture for you. No, I wanted you to see what we were seeing as we were seeing it, so that you all could kind of be there with us. So it's not just a big, long video. I'll make one of those and I'll post it on Facebook so that you can share it around and all that stuff. But for our church family, we wanted you all to know exactly what your support, what your prayers, everything that went to, in as much detail as possible. So if we could, at this point, can I have all the guys that went come up here? Maybe we can, get a chair or something. These guys have been standing for like 3 days straight. We had, look, the group that we took, so much talent, so much skill. The group that was there from Riverview Baptist Church, correct? Riverview Baptist. Is that right? I'm asking. Yes. Okay, good. All right. From Giles County, those guys were amazing. And I was telling Becca, she was like, so who all went? I was like, there was like 80 of us that decided to go down there and help out. Now, there was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One's not able to be here this morning with us. Don't worry, we didn't leave him down there in North Carolina. He came back. He's just not here today. There was 6 of us, but there was like 80 total people that were there helping out. Women that were cooking every meal for us and then delivering food to people there that live there. We had electricians, we had plumbers, we had mechanics that were like in the moment fixing trucks so that we could go out and help people. People would come back and say, I don't know what's up with my brakes. And a guy from Giles was like, I'll look at him. And he got it fixed in like 20 minutes. Or like opened up the hood and was like, oh, there it is. And just fixed it so that we could continue helping people. There were carpenters, like you're looking at carpenters, you're looking at people that did roofing. All kinds of stuff. I mean, it was amazing. If somebody had a problem in their house from the floods, we were able to fix it. So, and we didn't even scratch the surface, did we? So I just, personally, when we were signing up and they were like, write your skills down, these guys were like, heavy machinery, carpentry, I could literally build you a house in 2 days. I helped Noah build the ark. Like all that stuff. And here I am, and I just put down muscles and a positive attitude. That's what I'm bringing, baby. Let's do this thing. Right? Good. Hey, because, I'm there to have a good time and help however I can. Like I was telling Becca, if I heard somebody say, where'd my what's it called, drywall square? Where'd my drywall square go? Like I was like, where is it? Where did it go? Well, there it is. Here you go. Or like, I need a ladder. All right, I'll be right back. Right? Because I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. Right? But these guys do. So if y'all would, please join me. Can we give these guys a round of applause? They were awesome. They were awesome. Can we kill these lights? Turn them off. We don't have to kill them. We don't have to kill anything. Perfect. So this was our ride in. It was a very stormy, gross day. The weather was rough the first couple days, or this day driving in and then the next day. If you'll pause it, kind of back it up just a hair. Yep, so this is on Interstate 26. This is the damage that's still there. All the yellow there, I think, is from like a business pipe factory, and all of that's not supposed to be there. That's from like a mile up the road, and that's still there. On the other side of the interstate. And so, if you'll play the video, I think I pan it. So that's the side that the factory's on. The other side is where the river is. And the river was probably, 20 feet below the road and then 40 yards past the road. So you talk about, that's the damage that it got over to. So it picked up all that stuff and moved it wherever it wanted. And it's been 6 weeks since it happened, right? There's the river, and that's more damage. And we're not even at our... water over the rugby because the goalpost was underwater. I was talking about the Radford University rugby field, how it was 10 feet up there. So I can only imagine what was happening here, right? So, the river's on this side. All right, so here we are turned on to, this is getting close to our location where we were working. And it's just, they can't catch a break, man. It's raining. There's more devastation. I think this was Cane River that runs through Burnsville, just north of Asheville. And it's all just wiped out. The trees are bent over still. Everything's just wiped out. All right, if you'll pause it. So here's one of the auxiliary building, or the auxiliary building that the church had, where we ate every meal. We had devotions. We ate breakfast and lunch, and this, the man speaking. Does this have a pointer?
Yeah.
Yeah, laser.
On the top.
Yeah. Turn it on, Christian. Okay, Christian. All right, so this guy talking here, this is David, right? It's one of our boys. Here's another one of our boys, and another one of our boys. I told Becca, I was like, I promise I went. I was just the one behind the camera the whole time. I swear I was there, babe. I don't know what to tell you. So this guy is a man who is absolutely mind-blowing. His name is Brian Beavers, right? Multiple Beavers? One Beaver. Brian Beaver, just one Beaver. He's sort of the visionary for it all. And he and his wife, he says, we're gypsies. We just move around. So they uprooted from Wilmington, North Carolina, drove over with like an RV or a camper or whatever, and they just live there. And they walk around and just ask people, do you need help? And if they say yes, he starts making phone calls. And that's kind of how all this sort of started. Great guy. Here's another leader, Charlie Mullins. So he kind of got together and really made all this happen. Getting people together. So this was sort of him sharing his heart our first day there. And you can go to the next video. Excuse me. That wasn't even everybody. All right, you can pause it. So this is the church. It was Landmark Baptist Church in Burnsville, North Carolina. They said, y'all can stay here. Just take your boots off and don't mess up our carpet. We said, all right. So we were sleeping on pews. We were sleeping on the floors. This was where the guys slept, and the ladies slept in that other building. But you can hit play. I just do sort of a walkthrough. Just like showing where people have their sleeping bags kind of laid out. This is before everybody sort of started setting up. I said, y'all aren't wanted for the FBI. Like, sorry about it.
Christian was our comic relief the entire time at the bottom.
I think it shows where we go and where we're sleeping. Go ahead.
We tried to sleep in the baptismal. It was already taken.
So that's where we slept. We turned 2 pews around. All right, pause. So this is a church at the bottom of, we call it Moses Holler, and that's where 2 mountains, and then a holler is down. It's not like holler. It's, y'all are country people. You get it. So this church is at the bottom of Moses Hill, what's it? Moses Branch Road, and it sort of was catching all the water, and it'll all make sense. But this was sort of our staging area where we would park our vehicles and then get everything together and then go up the hill to start working. But you can see the damage. This is where a truck and a boulder from up the hill slammed into their church. And actually that much damage is kind of nothing compared to what we saw. And that's devastating, right? Go ahead. And then once we get to like the actual projects, I'll let you guys talk. That's when I'll let you talk, okay? Not before. So I asked the local, I said, was the creek like that? And he goes, it was barely anything. It was just a baby creek that ran along both sides of the road. And it's wide on both sides now. So this is riding up. And pause. So that house there has been there for 150 years. It belonged to an older couple, and then they handed it down to their son, and then they handed it down to a guy that lives there now with his girlfriend, wife, and her children, three children. And it was moved about 20 yards. I asked him where it was, and he pointed like right here, and it was down like it was down a good ways. The water just moved it, but it was there for 150 years in their family. So you talk about heartbreak. It's gone. 150 years. You can go ahead. So this is a house that the owner's name is Ben, and I actually got to interview Ben just a little bit, talk to him. You'll get to see that. That's his trailer. This is just showing another perspective of the church where we were staging. All right. And you can pause it. Now I'll let these guys start talking. I don't know who wants to start. Carrie, you can have at it. So kind of just tell them
So basically, this guy lived in the green single wide at the very top, and this was his, I'm calling it the jammin' shed, because this is where he would go to play guitar and stuff like that, but this is where he basically hung out on his property, and a big poplar tree, which you can see right there, fell into the corner of his roof, and it basically crushed the corner of his roof, and it was leaking inside there, had multiple leaks and things like that, and somebody else had come and actually cleared the tree away before we got there. So we got there and were able to pull the tarps back, and one of our local building supply companies out here actually donated almost $12,000 worth of supplies for us to take down. And we were actually able to use the supplies to fix the roof on this, so we were able to cut everything away, put new sheeting on it, and put a whole new roof on the corner of this shed, and dry it in so that way it wouldn't continue leaking and he wouldn't lose the building. And yeah, and he actually slept there, and so it was pretty wild. And this was very, very minor. And he said that the next day I was up there talking to him, and we looked across the valley, and I mean you can see mountains everywhere. We looked across the valley, and he said, "You see that spot in the mountain over there? Looks like power lines run down that." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he goes, "That's a mudslide." And I looked down the valley, and there was 2 houses. And that mudslide should have taken out both houses. And it didn't touch either one of them with the mudslide that I could tell from there. And I thought about the literal hundreds of tons of debris, mud, water, trees. Nothing will stand up to that going 50, 60 miles an hour down the mountain. And that is absolutely everywhere. And I think we had somebody actually go up and find a spring that was up in these hollers. So think about a mountain on both sides, and these houses were towards the bottom of that valley in the mountain going up. Well, these springs were up in the valley, and the amount of water that came out of them shouldn't have been coming out of them. That house that was on its side, it shouldn't have been able to do that. It doesn't make sense. The amount of water coming out of these things must have been millions of gallons in an instant. So that's kind of what we were encountering pretty much everywhere. So this is just one of the projects. We started with this one, and then we ended up doing a couple projects on this road.
Pastor Brian, what were you saying? How much water fell? Wasn't it like 30-something inches?
31 inches, which is a year's rainfall here in Bracken.
Yep. And that happened in one day.
One day, less than a day.
So the rain started in the morning, and it kind of tapered off that night, and then started picking up again, just raining for a good while.
You can't see it, but there's like a mudslide. Like
There you go.
like we're right on the edge of like a steep embankment. It's just, I'm not even sure. His plumbing is exposed on the side there, and like a few feet over, and the whole shed just goes.
So there's some of the material that was donated. Again, I promise I did stuff. You know what I mean? All right, here we go. Pause it. So, okay, so, you know, you got to have fun, okay? But I think maybe Chloe Carey needs some new pants. Christmas is coming up. So he said, he got up there and was like, he was doing something, and he goes, yeah, and while you're there, can you see how bad I ripped my pants right there? And it was like, it's bad, but it's not that bad. You're good. Let's keep going. Yes, sir. Sure.
They cut me off. So this house, actually, it looks like nothing. FEMA came in and condemned this home and told the couple that their house had shifted 2 foot off the foundation. They weren't able to live there. The owner of this home is the sister of the boy up the head of the creek here that lost his whole house. There were 8 of them that lived in his house for about 2 weeks. And when I finally convinced her to let us in, it was a total disaster, but we discovered quickly that the house probably wasn't knocked off its foundation. It was probably okay. But the long and the short of it is, and we found this out, there are a lot of people who were taken advantage of by volunteers. And we discovered that when we would go there and try to help, they would tell us, no, we don't want you here, because there were stories of people looting and stealing, making things worse. So you really had to be very intentional, and you had to build their trust before they would actually allow you to work. Now, most of us would look at this and go, this is nothing but a pile of rubble and junk. And, you don't want to let me go in here and fix this? Well, we may think that. This is all they have. And we can tell stories, but bottom line was, I kept telling them, I said, we've got a team of guys coming. I think they will really be able to help you. And they were like, oh, we don't know if we want them or not. No, just don't. I kept pushing and pushing them. Finally, they saw them. And these guys started repairing some of their stuff, and they were like, hey, we've got something else over here. And by the time they left, he was like, we've got some other stuff. And they could still be there working for another couple of weeks probably, but just very quickly, Carrie, David, John, Christian, and John
Another David.
Richardson. These guys framed in their porch, their sunroom. They actually ran power from the house over to their camper. They just fixed stuff in a matter of no time. I mean, I can't tell you how proud I am of these guys. Riverview was a little skeptical when I told them. I said, these guys are like talented. You tell them what to do and then get out of their way. After they got there, they were kind of watching them going, well, do we put them on this job? I said, put them on any job you have. After they worked for a couple of days, they saw their work. They were like, we are not going on another trip unless your guys go with us. So if you think that this little group right here, and John Richardson included, is not valuable, the team of 75 said they would not go back unless these guys went. So you do the calculation.
I want to give a little shout out to David Rockman. He's the quiet one, but he's also the smartest one of our group.
By far. By far.
And he played with that electrical system, talked about stuff I can't understand for quite a while, hurt his ankle in the process. And he hooked up an outlet and a breaker box on the back, ran power to their RV, and so they could turn off their generator, which, understand what it was a constant droning noise, very annoying. And it was costing these people $60 every 3 days, which is basically like, over $600 a month.
We did the math, it's $4,500 a year.
Yeah, but just, $600 a month is like way more than I pay in electricity. And so just immediately, that's just another little step towards getting back.
Normal.
And he fixed, we were there poking around at the first day, and we're touching the wires or working with the wires, and all of a sudden lights start flickering up there and there, and I'm like, that's a live wire just out waving around on the porch. And just thanks, David.
Well, yeah. The first guy, Ben, that little shed he actually had power running to it, but he had tried to fix it himself, and he didn't. And David was like, let me look at it. Doodaloo. Amazing.
This Ford, you want to tell them about the pickup truck? We can go back. There was a Ford pickup truck there beside their house that washed all the way down to that church, which is probably 300 yards, 400 yards, more than that. Yeah. It washed all the way down, destroyed their truck. Here's some prejudgment. As we were driving up through there, a guy that was with me went, look at these people living in a camper and got two newer cars out here. This is the problem. Okay, catch this now. Both of their cars got washed down the creek and destroyed. Because FEMA declared their house a disaster, they could not get a loan on a home until that is completely settled. They had no car. What are you supposed to do? They had nothing to drive. Couldn't find a car, had no way to get to a car. so they end up having to get some other vehicles. So we got to be so careful judging. Here's one more. That little church that was down at the bottom called these people and complained for days and days because their truck had washed down in their lot. And they kept on. They had to hire somebody to come and drag it up the hill. And the guy looked at me and said, I'll tell you right now, I'll never step foot in that church, ever. Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of stuff that believers really have to be careful working with. Yeah. So I'll just share that.
Yeah.
Not only that, just right before that.
Get you a mic, Kerry.
Right before that, that white truck that looks absolutely trashed, because it was completely brand new, and they had just put a new motor in it and all new suspension and everything like that. It was I believe it was her dad's truck, and now it is completely gone. They had just dropped a good amount of money to be able to keep that truck and drive it. So he said the only thing good in it happens to still be the motor and a little bit of interior stuff in the truck. So they had just spent a ton of money with this truck to have it to drive, and now it's completely almost next to worthless.
And one more story real quick. This girl and her brother at the top of the hill, as I was talking to them, they were having septic problems. I asked her where it was. She said, well, my dad says it's right out here in the yard, and the line goes this way. I said, great. I said, can I talk to your dad? She said, I wish you could. He killed himself. And not over the flood, but prior to that. And I'm just saying, there's heartache and tragedy in people's lives, and you just don't know what you're walking into. So, man, you got to be careful when you deal with people.
Absolutely.
We should be thankful for septic systems. When was the last time you thought about sewage? Tyrell was telling me, his girlfriend and their sister, they had septic systems, but they were the only two houses in that hollow who had septic systems. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that creek, that creek that was running by the road, he said, don't play in that creek. Yeah. Because there's a dozen houses up there, and it's not going in the septic system. It's going right down that creek, right by their house, 10 feet away.
I wish you had told me that's where I was drinking from.
I took a shower there. That was my bathing creek. So this was dinner first night. They made us spaghetti. They had a whole bunch of food. Just amazing people, just serving. They wanted to do something, so they said, I'll feed y'all. So this is day 2. This is us riding in. Just, again, another kind of perspective for you. All this road that we're on used to be blacktop paved. It lined and everything. It just gone. That water picked up blacktop road and just took it away. I got to drive a tractor. Thank you. Thank you. So there's some of the road that's still there. All right, so this is us trying to clear out some of the mud. That mud was up to here in their little shed, little garage.
And it really was not pleasant to smell.
It smelled so bad. And that's coming from guys who stunk for 3 days. It smelled bad. So this is us just kind of clearing out, getting ready to rebuild that wall there. So that used to all be enclosed, all be a house, Everything was just covered in mud. It was awful. There's Pastor John.
I'd like David Brockman to share the story of the lawnmower.
Don't
this cracked me up.
Talk about the lawnmower.
I like this because Christian had to work really hard.
So we were getting ready to work that first day in this garage, and the flood had packed that garage full of mud and slammed everything into the back of it. And actually another crew spent one entire day trying to kind of clean some of it out, mucking it out and everything, and it was a mess. But we realized in order to get in there and work, we were going to have to move some stuff out. So we actually spent a little bit of time just finding stuff buried in the mud and moving it out around the side of the house and stuff, and opened up the floor. You saw us finishing, kind of mucking it out and everything. And the lawnmower before the flood was sitting right at the front of the garage, and it got pushed way in the back, and it was just, I mean, this thing looked like it was destroyed. The front end was all caved in. It was packed full of mud. The front tires were flat. I mean, it was just a wreck, you know. And honestly, part of me said, why don't we just pick this tractor up and throw it over in the trash pile? But, so they were trying to move it, and they couldn't get it in neutral, and it was heavy. It was full of mud, and it was grunting, and 4 or 5 was pushing on this thing, trying to scooted it over to the front of the garage, and then we finally just hooked a chain around it and used the tractor and pulled it up the road and just got it out of our way. Well, later that evening, I was finishing up wiring up a light, and these guys had already left, and they were looking at another job site, and Terrell was out there, and he was taking some of the belongings that we had set outside, and he was putting them back in the garage because it was finally clean enough, and he had lights and stuff in there, and he was just trying to, it was the only place he had to store anything at this point, so he was doing that, and he goes up and he starts messing with the lawnmower, and I told him, I said, man, it took 4 or 5 of us to get it out of here. I said, we'll be back in the morning, just let us take care of it then. And he kind of chuckled, and he went and got a little bit of gas, fired right up, and he backed it back down into the garage.
Not happy. Thanks, Terrell.
There's the mower.
So this is, we're cleaning up that house, top of the hill. Pastor John lived in that, what do you call it, excavator?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah? Okay, good. He lived in that thing for like 10 hours a day. Will you pause it right there? Boom. All right, so if you can see this little cabinet, so Pastor John, if you brought somebody in from the government, they would just come in and demolish that house and burn it all and haul it away, be gone. When you have people that care, like Pastor John does and other guys that were there do, and they're skilled with machinery and they can do stuff, Pastor John was able to kind of peel back these layers, and I heard him say, hey Silas, which is the guy's name, hey, I'm able to get you into that cabinet if you want to go. And Pastor John took the time to stop everything and let this guy pick through these cabinets and get coffee mugs, china that belonged to his grandmother, glass casserole dishes that belonged to his grandmother, that he was, I'm telling you, his face lit up when he saw just casserole dishes that had not broken.
Yeah.
They were in perfect condition. And he was showing us, and he was like, you know what this is? And I was like, glass. Yeah? No? But he pulled out a wooden box that had like a little thing on the end of it and a crank. And he was like, you know what this is? Wood. I don't know. What is it? And he goes, that's an old flour sifter from way back. And you used to put it in the cabinet and then store your flour in there. And then you'd put the bowl under and sift it. And I was like, how did that, like this is all destroyed and that survived. And he got it.
His dad had made a couple of knives, and he thought they were completely lost up under all the debris. And by the grace of God, I was praying, Lord, help us find this. He named 3 or 4 pieces. We just pulled back a few things. I saw a little bitty box, and I told him about it. And Christian was standing there with a big tub, and he kept filling it up. Christian was
He just kept putting stuff in. I was like,
have a
yeah,
picture.
We're good.
Long story short, he pulls out, he said, there's the knife my dad made. And you
They
can
had-
just see tears.
Yep.
flowing. So anyway, roll it, David.
Yeah. And he had that wormy chestnut. He wanted that wormy chestnut. So this is the homeowner next to me here. That's Silas. We would take the metal off the roof and then take it all away so they could possibly reuse it for something. But, man, we didn't. This is him finding
There it
stuff.
is.
A church had brought us food, so we were taking a government 15. Thankfully, that motorcycle ended up down at the church, and he's at the very top of the hill. That's probably a quarter to a half a mile. That motorcycle was just down there. That was his baby. He loved that thing. He had it. He said, I bought that thing for $2,500. I got it souped up. He was so excited that it was still there. That was a shed that was given to them to put their stuff in because it was just all out in the open. And the Amish came our last day and put it together probably in 2 hours, which is slow for them, I think. So we had their house. This is down the hill. We got it all framed out. We had windows ready. We didn't have windows to put in, but we framed out the windows, and we boarded up everything, and they can cut everything out if they want to put windows in just to, do that. But look at, this is high quality work from these guys, and I just got to be a part of it. Like, this is amazing. People would spend thousands. I don't know how much you would charge people to do this, but they did this in a matter of 2 days. And they're not even done. They did even more for them. So this is him putting stuff back in the house. That was the best meal I've probably had in my life. Is that Dave Nisler? Is that his name? Kistler. I don't know if you know that name. So pause it right there. Look at that view, man. And to think that the global flood in the days of Noah was over all that, and we're there because of flood that was up to your waist. That is a beautiful view. That's the church we stayed at. Sort of the calm after the storm. Look at all those trucks. Just awesome to see. So we had a lady who had it on her heart to lead us in a song on the final day. This is the third location that I was at, Miss Renee. So we had those timbers, and we were going to put them up against the hill because there was a landslide that they're standing at. So pause it. Okay, so up here, I think that's it. That's where the man found a spring, and he built a spring box and built a fence around it all the way up there that he's able to run water down for these people who had their water source destroyed. This is a landslide. One of the guys said, by the time we get back, that whole side of the hill will probably be gone. Water was coming off the top of the hill here, running down this, and hitting all these. See these trucks? Those were all lined up perfectly in a row right here. And the water just moved them all right down here in a little pile. Probably 10 trucks. Go ahead. So you'll be able to see off the cliff. Her yard went to out here. These trees, this tree here, that was her baby. The yard went all the way out to here, and it's gone. So we were moving these timbers, cutting them up, laying them up against the side of the hill. We had probably 8 guys there on the last day. Those things were they were 18 foot long. We cut them in half. Some of them were bigger than others. But they probably weighed around, when they were all together, maybe 1,000 pounds? 800 pounds? So this is a little progress we had made to just kind of put them in weak spots that we saw, pile them up there. And this is us trying to get this tree for her stood up because it mattered to her, right? So we're there to do whatever we got to do. And we finally got it stood up, and we drove a stake down next to it so that it might stand up. And I think she's going to use it as a Christmas tree this year. And this is the finished product of that house down the hill. They put a double door in right here. So they're able to get in completely closed off to wind. You guys hear that? Nothing. So this, ready, set, pause. All right. So this is Roger Fox's house. We called it the Fox house. This is his front yard. And this man mowed his yard twice a week. He told me he mowed it on Monday and mowed it on Friday. So my wife loves a good yard, and I like to get out and do some things. But let me tell you about Roger Fox. Okay, this man's like 70-something years old. You couldn't go anywhere in Burnsville and say, hey, we're from Christiansburg, Virginia. We're working here. Where are you working? Oh, we're working at this guy named Roger Fox. Oh, I know Roger Fox. He helped my grandfather dig his truck out of a trench 17 years ago, and I'll never forget that. Or I know Roger Fox. He helped bring this over to this. Like every single person in town knew who Roger Fox was, because when stuff like this happened, he was the first person to show up to help them. And he couldn't do anything because he's a veteran. He's had double hip replacement. He said, I've got new shoulders, new hips, new knees, and a new heart. I can't do anything. And it was killing him to just sit back and watch. So the river was right on the other side there, and it came up. And you'll see 2-story house, and it was up to the cabinets in the top. So this is a guy named Rodney clearing that away. All that was underwater. There's some guys working, cutting siding or flooring. That's his basement, completely covered, filled up.
Stop it right there.
So pause it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the water level was 4 foot in the upstairs of his house from the pressure of the water down and the back pressure.
So all this top here, this is original drywall. The reason they stopped it there is that's where the water was. And this is in the top of his house. Those are some Christiansburg guys. Nice and quiet. So we were sort of the last crew left. Oh, I'm glad that was there. Good. Yeah, good. I don't know who it was. It's a natural human thing.
Christian has no shame.
But it was awful. It was awful. It had to be said. It was shameful. It was shameful. No ventilation in this house.
Christian.
So we were sort of wrapping up. We almost completely finished the drywall in this house. So that's the day of. This video was sent to me by a local. That was the day of. And that's the house that we were working on. This is from inside the house. That house that we were on the front porch. I think there's a video coming up. It's like 4 seconds long. We're going to loop that if you don't mind. So that's not a river. That's a road. Is there one? Is that it? Okay. So there's a video. Whoa, there's a video showing that truck just getting washed down, and it'll be in the final video of it all. Just getting washed down. But one thing I want to say, and then I'm going to have everybody kind of share their takeaway, if that's fine, if we have time for that. One last thing I'm going to say is I spoke with Ben, the guy that owned that green trailer. He said his biggest takeaway is always be ready for the worst. They were without anything, no human contact. They were completely isolated for 6 full days. Nothing. And none of them were ready. He had 8-year-old MREs that he lived off of for a couple days. But I would just say, we need to be a community that takes care of each other. If it wasn't for the people in that town stepping up, clearing roads, doing that kind of stuff, they'd still be locked in. But the people of the town stepped up, and the churches stepped up. I can't remember who told me, it might have been you, Pastor John, but somebody said, almost everybody you talked to say the first people that showed up, asked if we needed help, wasn't the government, they were Christians. It was the church. And that's the way it ought to be, right? So this is sort of a wake-up call for me, for us. Let's help each other. When you got a need, share it, right? So if y'all would, just kind of your own personal takeaway from this trip, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I will say we served as much as we could, but I feel like I was more blessed than what we actually did, because I don't know how to describe it, but you feel when you're serving, we were part of a body of Christ. There was just so many helping hands everywhere, and we kind of moved the needle just a little bit here and there, and we helped this person a little bit and this person, and there are things like, the body has different pieces to it. Like I might be the hands building a wall, but Pastor John went down on Wednesday, and he was our eyes. Like, he was just hunting for people who need help. And it was strange how hard it is to find people who need help, because they don't really want to be helped. I don't know how to describe it. And it's kind of odd in that area where you'll have like this, at the beginning of that road, you didn't see it way up the road, there's a nice house with an in-ground pool. And then like a few hundred yards up the road, you got people living in a shed. And so John was there hunting, and he's like using discernment that God has given him, and so he's like our eyes and our mouth, and Carrie was organizing and texting and like getting this, and things were changing so quickly because we had so many helping hands, and it was hard to know where to help who. But there was such a blessing to me in that I'm part of this body. And this body goes beyond our church walls, because we were there and we thought we were intense originally, but then another church stepped up and helped us, different church, and then another day we're working in a random other church. I don't even know what church it was, just brought us a hot meal, just came right up the road bringing like, hey, do you want some Louisiana style? It was a gumbo. Beans and rice. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was hot food, and just people all over somebody. And you feel this, we're part of a body of Christ. And not everybody can go climb on a roof and shingle, but even just some of the ladies were going up and sitting with people and witnessing to them and hearing the stories of their father. Some other people came before us, donated a generator, and you guys didn't hear about this, but 2 days before we were there, another church group had come by and thrown a birthday party for two of the kids, Tyrell and Sapphire. And he was still opening his presents, showing me his Lego and stuff. It's just, I am incredibly blessed to see how the body of Christ is the one that steps up. And we don't need to be part of the same denomination. God, He's given us all different gifts in different places. And my prayer for everybody is that we have the eyes to see. Because it's easy to give, the change, leftover change at your bread order. You get your $15 bowl of soup, and I'm giving my extra change to charity, but God doesn't really need our money. He needs us to be the hands and feet. And you guys don't even know this. Slynn came by and gave my family spaghetti on Friday. Libby and all of the kids, lots of them. And there's a lot of spaghetti. And I feel so blessed to be part of the body of Christ. And so my prayer for everybody is to open your eyes this Christmas season, just the season in general. Ask people what their needs are, but if you're people don't share their needs. Maybe you can ask them, try asking this, who do you know needs help? And then you'll start weaving it. I saw John do this, and that's how we found Ben, and Ben living up in the shed on MREs. And just the final thing, I'm glad we went on this before Thanksgiving, because I'm thinking about all the little things I take for granted. Clean air without mold. You can't imagine how much mud was everywhere. Just mud. Think mud everywhere. if you guys have a shop, you know, you love your tools, think about your shop being full of mud. All your tools, and then having a dry space. That was my little contribution, is I felt good that we could give them a dry space to put stuff. You know, if you ever had a struggle of getting things dry. Septic systems, having a dining room table. Just all these little things that I'm thankful for. A wife that doesn't snore. We ran into some snoring. Lots of snoring. But, you know, I'm blessed. I am very blessed. I am thankful going into Thanksgiving here in a couple of weeks. So that's my takeaway.
I think my biggest takeaway is just realizing how long that will take. We got told that if we went even 7 miles up the river, what we saw would make that look like a first world country. Basically, where two rivers intersected, they said it was absolutely obliterated. So just imagine these people woke up and had to run for their lives, quite literally, out of their house. And they were not living close to water. You just drive and you'd look up 30 feet in the air and you'd see debris from water in trees 30 feet high. And it wasn't necessarily close to water either. So there was a lot of just realizing how long this will take. And actually, it's great to donate things, but we realized that there's so many donations sitting there. You could go to any fire department and just pull up and say, we need this, and they will put it in your truck. No questions asked. But what they are really going to need for quite some time maybe is funds for materials for rebuilding, but that kind of stuff is going to come from individuals like us giving it to people who we know are actually going to use it for that purpose. And skilled labor, and even non-skilled labor, just being able to go out and being willing to do some grunt work, getting these houses cleaned out and ready to actually rebuild. It's not going to stop for a long time. And really, the community there, these are some tough people. And it was amazing. So.
Give it to David.
No, I've been talking.
He's finished.
Yeah, I'm done. Hold on.
I would say that similar to what David was saying, I think the biggest thing that I saw was that there were so many people helping out, and it really made me realize that everyone has talents, everyone has gifts, and there are so many different ways that you can help out. And you know, you can look around this community. We prayed for the Agape Center, you know, and we're packing boxes for Samaritan's Purse, and we had the mission group in, you know, earlier in the week, and the mission conference, and I mean, there's just so many ways. And I would just encourage all of you to just think about how you might be able to be plugged in and just do your little part, and what a blessing it is to so many other folks. The meal that we got served that one day, I mean, it was incredible. And it was simple beans and rice, you know, but man, it sure hit the spot. We didn't know them from Adam, had no idea where that church was, but they just knew that there was a need up in this community, and they made food and took it up there, you know, stuff like that. But one story I do want to share. We were tired coming home last night. Been a long 3 days, and we stopped for gas at a Shell station, and go to order some food. You know, was it 8 o'clock at night or something like that? And so Christian gets up, and she's taking his order, right? And she said, "Well, would you like seasoned fries?" And he said, "Well, what type of seasoning do you have? Is it Lowry's?"
That's a good question. Is it Lowry's? I don't know.
So she leans over. "Hey, Vern, is that Lowry seasoning we use on our fries?" You know. He's like, "I don't know," you know. And anyway, we're just rolling. We're tired. We're just rolling, laughing, right? So a few minutes later, A few minutes later, the guy comes out and he like presents it like a butler over his arm, right? You know, and Christian's like, "Oh yeah, 2024. That was a good year for seasoning." You know.
It was Roma seasoning, which is good. It's good stuff.
But I think the point is, you know, we God has a wonderful sense of humor. We had a great time. It was a great time of fellowship. We truly were blessed in so many ways by helping out, and I think that anyone who has ever helped out in some fashion, here around the church or whatever, you kind of understand what we're talking about. It really was a blessing for all of us.
Yeah. I just wanted to share a couple of things. First of all, the people who went on this trip from the other church invited other skilled people to go with them. Listen to this, intentionally, because they knew some of them were not believers. And they knew that if they could get them there around God's people and they would hear the gospel, they'd get saved. 2 of them did, and we're thankful for that. The second issue was, I don't know what that was. That's not mine. I had on November 17th? Are there 2 November 17th presentations? If not, it's no problem. I can tell the story. Okay. So I'll show you the pictures later. While I was digging through an ash pile yesterday, I took my bucket and stuck down and went to pull up, and I saw a head come up out of the rubble. And, I immediately stopped because one of the neighbors had told me there were like 20-some people who were buried in that community. Now, I don't know about numbers, so please don't quote me. I'm just listening to them. And that some of them they will never find. And he said the news kind of bypassed. And if you were there and you saw a mudslide, you could imagine, they were pretty much saying they were just going to leave the people. They just couldn't find them. And I went to pull this thing out, and it ended up being a tiger about this long, and I'm not joking, saturated in mud and stuff. And one of the kids was up in the edge of the trailer, and I was afraid they'd see their tiger, and we had a big brush fire. So I was looking to make sure there's no kids looking. I hurried and threw it in the fire because it was absolutely filthy. Because the septic tank ran under the house for 150 years, and I fell in it. Not my feet, but my machine went down in it. It was really nice. But the second thing, I had your picture, Christian, to show that you were working, because he was very compassionate. Christian may act like he's goofy, but he really does care. And he was the life of the party, and all the people loved him to death. And they were just servants. All these guys jumped in wherever, it didn't matter what it was. And somebody there had asked me before, they were like, "Why don't you think about going somewhere? Why don't you think?" And I told them, I said, "See these guys right here? This is why I don't want to go anywhere. Right here, because of these people." And I am a blessed man to be a pastor of this church. And Brian would say the same thing. We have top-notch people here. Y'all are just great people. And I'm so thankful for you. One last thing I want to share. We were coming home last night. It took us 5 hours because we were hauling equipment to get home. And as we were coming up the road, we were like, praise God, everything's good. They put the heaviest load on my truck, which was fine. But as we came over these 2 huge mountains, and I was praying that the truck would hold it back and stop it. We got to the bottom, and the tire blew on the trailer. So, the trailer's going like this. So we limped a couple of miles off the interstate. We had a wrong spare. A tire was misplaced. We didn't have a jack. Somebody had pulled it out of the truck to take it to another job, and it didn't get back. So long story short, we were there, and we were trying to lift this machine off the trailer, and it's got hydraulic dumps on a rollback. And I was lifting the machine up and lifting it back, and as I was raising it up, the hydraulic rams that hold the machine up bent like a banana, and the trailer deck came down, and I had like a hat bill on, and it clipped the top of my hat bill. If my head would have been that much more inside, you all would be hearing about a dead man this morning. And I say that not to let you know that, I almost got my head chopped off. I say that to tell you that's how quick life is. And if my head had been that much further, not only would my wife be a widow, but my kids would not have a dad. And God is good. And I just kind of stopped for a minute, and it's easy to get frustrated. But I was like, my devotional that morning, because they kept after me to do it, was talking about how you respond when things don't go your way. And I thought, remember your testimony, because I could have lost it yesterday. We got home last night at around 2 o'clock is what time I laid down. I think I got to sleep at 3 o'clock last night. And all of our week started way back. So it's been a crazy week, but I've learned this in life. Anytime you want to serve God and things start going what we think is bad, hold on, because it's about to be really good. God is good. Amen. Father, thank you so much for this team, these people. We pray this morning for the hearts of the people in North Carolina and all around our community here who need you. I pray that you would send people with a message of hope, salvation, and deliverance. May we truly be your hands and feet in the lives of other people. Thank you for all of our folks here at Trinity who prayed for us. We felt their prayers, and you answered their prayers to keep us safe. So for everyone who uttered that prayer, Father, help them to know today that in multiple times and in many ways, their prayers were answered. So we thank you for being a God who answers prayer.